So in this video we're going to review how to multiply complex numbers. So we'll start with multiplying two numbers that have the form AI times BI, so kind of a simple case. So start by rewriting the problem. We have negative 6i times negative 7i. And what we want to recognize is that everything here is being glued together with multiplication. In other words, this statement here is the equivalent to saying, hey, I have a negative 6 times I have parentheses touching, so times, and it's really negative 7 times I. I wouldn't usually write this. I'm just doing this in this particular case to emphasize that this statement is about products. We have products of things, and order of multiplication when we're working with complex numbers, just like when we're working with real numbers, isn't going to matter. So we can actually regroup the multiplications so that we have the negative 6 times the negative 7. In other words, the real part times the real part. And then we have I times I. And now we multiply negative 6 times negative 7, which is going to be positive 42. And we have I times I, which we could rewrite as I squared if we wanted to. The key is to remember that because the square root of negative 1 equals I, this means that I times I equals negative 1. Or in other words, I times I, which is I squared equals negative 1. So I don't really need to write the I squared here. I could just go directly to the fact that I times I is just negative 1. And so I've got 42 times negative 1, which is just equal to negative 42. I don't think I would usually show this level of detail. Probably in general, the amount of work I would show for something like this, we might look at this and recognize that we have negative 6 times negative 7 is 42, and we have I times I, which is I squared, but I squared is just negative 1, which is negative 42. So next one, we have two numbers being multiplied, two complex numbers being multiplied. So we have a product that looks like A plus BI, that's this first guy, times C plus DI. So we have the product of two complex numbers, and we want to treat this just like we would the product of two binomials. So we're going to do negative 4 minus 3 times I times 2 plus 7 times I, and we're going to use the distributive property to multiply everything in this set of parentheses times everything in this set of parentheses. So we'll just start with the negative 4. And we'll take the negative 4 and multiply it by the 2 in the other parentheses. And then I'll take the negative 4 and I'll multiply it by the plus 7i. So plus, I have negative 4 times 7i. And now negative 4 has been multiplied using the distributive property times everything in the other parentheses. Now I step over to the minus 3 or negative 3. So I'm going to go plus, and this is going to be a negative 3. I want to treat this as if it's a plus negative 3. So I get negative 3i times 2. So negative 3i times 2. And then distribute into the other term. I'll make that negative look a little bit better. So negative 3i times 2, and then plus, I have negative 3i times the plus 7i that's sitting over there. And now I can kind of clean things up. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 plus negative 28i plus negative 3 times 2 is negative 6i plus negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. And I have I times I, which is I squared. And I can simplify things a bit more. Negative 8 plus, I have negative 28 plus negative 28i plus negative 6i. So how many i's do we have altogether? We have negative 28 of them plus negative 6 more of them is going to be negative 34i plus, we have a negative 21, but it's being multiplied by I squared. And remember from the previous slide, I squared is just equal to negative 1. So I can replace the I squared with the negative 1. Now I have negative 28 plus negative 34I plus negative 21 times negative 1 is 21. And I see that I have two real number parts that don't have an I, so I can combine those. I have negative 8 plus 21 is going to be, what's that come out to be? 13 plus the negative 34I that I have. And when I'm done multiplying, what I want to wind up with is a number that is in standard form. So that's the form A plus B, a real number part, times I. And that's what I have here at the end, a number that's it's been simplified into standard form.